Shalom, Israel. Elder Stephen here, and I got another class for you. And today we're going to be speaking about time. The reason we have to do this class is because we have found out through some of the comments that a lot of people don't understand fully the doctrine that we're bringing forth. People look at time and they think of time in a chronological way, okay? But the way that the Most High views time is different than the way that we view time as human beings, okay? Men view time primarily from past to future, but the Most High thinks differently about time. Elder Samuel did a class where he was talking about how to weigh fire. All right. He gave you 3 examples of how to weigh fire. And fire is the word. So he's talking about the scriptures. Okay. And he gives you the first method of weighing fire is if you look at the scriptures as a novel. Okay. So you're reading it front to back and you're thinking about the time periods that happen in the scriptures, and you look at it in that fashion and you derive a level of understanding from reading it that way. Okay. Then there's a way of looking at the scriptures with the carnal interpretation of the Bible. Okay. That's the method that Moses taught the people, what the Bible meant carnally. Okay. And the third way is the spiritual interpretation of what the Bible is saying. That's the method that we teach because that's what the Most High said he wanted the people to know. Okay. He says that he's a spirit and we have to worship him in spirit and in truth. So we're going to explain it in the spiritual interpretation. We may give you examples of what the novel way of reading it is and what the carnal way of reading it is. But we're going to be primarily informing you of what things mean spiritually, because that's the requirement. You have to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. Now, you've seen on many of these videos that we've done that we've come and we've spoken very strongly against a lot of these Israelite camps. One in particular is Israel United in Christ. And we blast them for the lies that they are telling to the people. All right. But just because we're blasting them doesn't mean that we can accept correction too. All right. So we're not arrogant and saying that we know everything and nobody else knows anything. That's not what we're saying. All right. But we blast them and correct them because of the wickedness of what they do, because they are unrepentant. Now, the comment that we received on one of our videos, it was talking about time. But the way that we're going to explain this, we are not here to blast anyone that criticizes what we're saying. Our job is to explain it to them, because they honestly may have a misunderstanding of what we're saying, and that's okay. Okay. Our job is to make sure everybody gets the understanding, and nobody is above correction. So, to the person that asked the question, we don't hate you. We bear no animosity against you. And we don't want you to feel that, well, we're going to try and make it seem like you don't know what you're talking about. This is simply a situation where we're saying something and it may be that we didn't explain it right, so that you can get the full understanding of what we're saying. So we have no animosity against you. We just want everything to be clear so that you understand the doctrine that we're teaching. Okay, so now that I got that out the way, we're going to be talking about time. Time. So people view time in the Bible and they say, well, this happened at this time and this happened at this time. So the Bible's talking about the past versus this versus that, and that's not how the Most High works. Now, he's written a couple of things to kind of get you in the mind frame to let you know what he's saying. So we're going to go to Isaiah 46:10 to show you how the Most High thinks. And it reads, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. What that verse is telling you is the Most High has written an end of days book. Okay? Everything in this book is telling you about what's going to happen in the end times. It's a latter days book. So people get confused and start thinking that, well, I need to know this happened before this and this happened before that. That's not what he's saying. He's saying everything that he's written in that book is written in similitude so that when you see it, you know that's what he's talking about. He's telling you specifically what's going to happen in the latter days. All of those things that happened in the past, those are similitudes and signs so that when you see it in the future, you know what to do. Okay? It allows you to be able to tell who the characters are from the past with the people who fit those characteristics in our time. Because we're at the latter days and we don't have a whole lot of time. That's why we're taking the time to explain it so that everybody understands what the Most High is saying. Again, we are not above correction, but we're going to give you the precepts to show you what we're saying. Okay? The Most High is very clear on what he's saying. We have another scripture for you. We're going to Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Okay? So remember, Christ said he was going to send that comforter, right? That's the spiritual interpretation of the Bible. Okay? That's the spiritual law. So he says whatever was written aforetime, he's saying that stuff that is in that Bible is for your learning. Okay? Your learning today. You're going to be able to recall from what the Bible's saying, things that are happening in the latter times that make you believe what the Most High is saying. And if you are patient and you have comfort, the comfort is the scriptures. That's the spiritual interpretation that Christ left us. Then you're going to have hope of salvation. That's what it's telling. Okay? So it's an end of times book that you have to look in the way that the scriptures are written in order so you can have hope that you understand when you see it in your day. All right? It's not talking about this happened before this or that happened before that. That doesn't matter. What matters is what the parable means. That's what you have to get. You have to understand what the parable means. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to go to Hosea chapter 12 and verse 10 so you can get an understanding that the Most High, he does things carnally and spiritually, but he gives you a similitude, which is the carnal, that has a different interpretation, that is the spiritual. Okay, he wrote this in Hosea 12:10. I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes. A similitude is where he takes an example or a metaphor, right? But the metaphor looks like it's talking about something that actually is happening, but it's a representation of something spiritually underneath that you won't necessarily be able to see. Okay? So like a riddle, like a metaphor, it's saying one thing, but it means another thing. You got to have the key or the understanding of the spiritual words in order to get the understanding. All right? So he's got similitudes all throughout the book. All right? The problem with the carnal understanding is people focus on that and they miss out on the spiritual interpretation of what the Most High is actually saying. So they follow the token, not the actual message. Okay? We teach the actual method, the actual message. Now, let's go to Job chapter 11, verse 6. It's going to say something very, very similar. It says, and that he would show thee the secrets of wisdom. There are secrets to what's being said carnally. All right? That they are double to that which is. Wisdom coming from the spiritual interpretation as opposed to the carnal interpretation. Okay? We have to look deeper into the scriptures to know what the Bible is saying spiritually. Okay? So that is the situation with time, how time is used in the Bible. If you don't understand how time is used, you're going to believe that a man lived over 900 years. And that is a Jewish fable. That is what's being taught. That the Most High, whenever he first started making men, well, men lived to be, first the man was, he could live forever. And then the man committed sin in the garden. And so the Most High started shortening the years of man. But you don't understand what he's saying when he's talking about time. Time is talking about a person's level of understanding. That's what time is talking about. It's talking about a person's level of understanding. And we're going to prove it. Whenever we start this class and you start seeing these little words at the bottom of the screen, those little words are the precepts, okay? Those chapters and verse, okay? A little blurb telling you what it means, okay? The precepts are going to show you that no man ever lived over 900 years. That's a Jewish fable because of the understanding or misunderstanding of the prophets who are teaching it, okay? They don't know how to explain it. They don't know, just like we just read in Job, that there's hidden wisdom in what he's saying. You have to know what these words mean, okay? And once you know what the words mean, then you can get a better understanding of what the Most High is trying to convey, all right? So, again, this is strictly to give understanding so people see the perspective from what we are teaching. We are not here to blast anyone. We are here to answer whatever questions that get put forth before us and give you a spiritual understanding of what it is. We're not lords over anybody. And the person who made the comment, we don't hate you, we love you, and we want you to understand what's being said. That's all that we're trying to do. We don't want to be your Lord. We're just trying to explain it to all of the people, because Christ said that we had to. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, as I mentioned before, this class has to be done because we realize now that some people read the Bible chronologically or as a novel. Again, you can go to the class that Elder Samuel did on how to weigh fire, and he will explain. When you weigh in fire, you have primarily three methods by which you can weigh fire. You can read the scriptures as a novel, you can take the interpretation of the carnal way, or you can take the interpretation of the spiritual way. That's primarily how we weigh fire. Weighing fire means weighing the word. You're looking at the way the words are written, and you're going to look at what it's being interpreted carnally versus what it means spiritually. And you're going to weigh and see which one makes more sense. Does it make more sense that a man lived 900 years and you've seen a person that's 80 years or 90 years, and you see how racked their body is with age and the person can barely move? You see pictures of people who are over 100 years old and you see how frail they are, and the first thing you say is, how can a person live 900 years if the body's racked with that level of age and denigration in just 90 or 100 years? Your mind won't allow you to believe that a man can live 900 years. But these pastors, they tell you if you don't believe, you don't have faith. That's a cop-out because they don't know how to tell you. They don't know how to explain it. Okay? So you're not wrong in thinking it's hard to believe a person can live 900 years. Okay? Whenever you read the Bible as a novel, right, you have to recognize that in the Bible, there's no scripture that says if you don't know what day this happened or what that day happened, you're not going to get the kingdom. That's not in the scriptures. You're not going to be held accountable for knowing when something happened in the past. That's not what the Most High is requiring of you. Okay? The Most High also said, whenever you're going to prove your point as it relates to something in the Bible, you cannot use other mediums in order to get your point. You have to use the Bible. Okay? So if you have to go to a source like Wikipedia or a historical book, that's not the Bible. The Most High says that's not what I'm saying. Okay? And I'm about to prove that to you. We're going to go to Isaiah 34 and 16. And it reads, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth has commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them." So he's telling you, don't make the Bible with history books and Wikipedia. All of that stuff is a man's interpretation of when something happened. So they go and they say, they give you an estimation of when something happened because they can't tell you. Nobody can tell you that. The best they can do is give you an estimation, right? But the Most High said, that ain't what I'm trying to convey anyway. So don't get caught up and tripped up you following whether or not what day something happened when I'm trying to tell you something way more important about what's happening now. Okay? So he's telling you, don't get caught in that snare of looking at what has been established as this happened at this time or this happened at that time, because those people don't know. At best they can estimate. They can't carbon date and all that other stuff because that technology is not reliable. Okay? The Most High said, learn what I mean and you'll know what I'm talking about. He also said the way that you can do it is you can do it with 2 or 3 witnesses. So if you gather together the witnesses, it's going to tell you what he's talking about. Okay? So we're going to go to Matthew 18. So he says in Matthew 18, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, his name is the word. Okay, when it says his name, he's talking about the word. The word, Revelation 19:13 tells you the word is the name. Okay, when you see the word name, it's talking about the word. It's saying where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. He's talking about 2 or 3 witnesses. Okay, you have to have 2 or 3 witnesses to establish the matter. Okay, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. The understanding of what the Most High is saying can be established by those 2 or 3 witnesses. If you have 2 or 3 witnesses, meaning precepts, you can determine what the Most High is saying. Okay? We're going to give you the understanding that when the Most High is talking about times, he's talking about wisdom and understanding. Days, months, times, and seasons are all referring to levels of understanding. Whether it be the understanding of the Most High's doctrine or the understanding of another doctrine. So, we're going to get started with the word hours. We're going to start reading a series of scriptures with the subject being hours. We're going to look at the context of how it's used to give you the understanding of what that particular word means. All right. So let's start with hours. When you see the word hours, it's talking about what hours in the Bible. Okay. He's telling you something specific. All right. So first we're going to go to 2nd Ezra 5:34. And I said, no, Lord, but of very grief have I spoken, for my reins pain me every hour, while I labor to comprehend the way of the Most High, and to seek out part of his judgment. So he's using the word hour. So he says, my reins. Reins is something that you control with. The Most High controls us with the doctrine, his scriptures, all right? They pain him every hour. So he's talking about hours as his understanding, because he's going to compare hours with labor to comprehend. So they're being compared. To labor to comprehend, we're going to explain to you what labor means, okay? Now I'm going to read it again. I said, no, Lord, but of very grief have I spoken. For my reins, for my reins pain me every hour. So he's talking about his reins are his doctrine. Every hour, every bit of understanding that he has. While I labor to comprehend the way of the Most High. The way of the Most High is his doctrine. And to seek out part of his judgment. His judgment is his doctrine. Okay? So the hour is compared to him laboring to comprehend. The reins are his doctrine, and the labor or burden is his doctrine as well. So we're going to get you the understanding of the word burden and labor. Okay, we're going to go to Malachi 1:1. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 11 and verse 28. And it reads, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden. Okay? And I will give you rest. So when he's talking about ye that labor and are heavy laden, so he's telling you, he's talking about the people who are heavy laden with a doctrine. Okay? So that's the people who following a different doctrine. All right? and I will give you rest. Rest means believe. Okay? He's going to give you a doctrine to believe in. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Learn the doctrine, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your soul. So you're going to believe once you learn his doctrine. For my yoke, his yoke is his doctrine, is easy, and my burden is light. So it's not difficult to learn his doctrine once you learn what these words mean, like this word hour. And we're going to give you more examples. Once you learn what the doctrine is, you'll have understanding. All right, so you kind of see now that the word hour is talking about comprehending. Okay, because he's comparing hour to comprehend. But that's okay. We're going to give you another. We're going to keep going. We're going to give you more examples. And by the time you hear more and more examples of the word hour, you're going to be able to understand what he's saying. It's new. Just be patient and you're going to get it. We're going to go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 14 and verse 25. And come hither, and I shall light a candle of understanding, so it's talking about understanding, in thine heart, in your mind, which shall not be put out, till the things be performed which thou shalt begin to write. So this is whenever Ezra took those other men and he started writing those books, started writing out what the Bible was talking about after the angel gave him understanding. Verse 26, when thou hast done, some things shalt thou publish, and some things shalt thou show secretly to the wise. Tomorrow, this hour, shalt thou begin to write. Now, immediately the first thing you think is tomorrow, this hour is saying, well, in 24 hours, I want you to start writing this book. But what the Most High is actually saying is tomorrow is light. That's a time period. He's talking about the understanding that he's given to Ezra. Then he says it a second time with the word hour. Tomorrow, the understanding, this hour, this understanding, shalt thou begin to write. Okay? He's saying you're going to get the understanding and you're going to begin to write it. Okay? He's talking about the understanding. Okay? When he's talking about tomorrow, he's talking about day. Day, light, morning, sun, all those things mean wisdom. Okay? So tomorrow means wisdom. He's saying tomorrow, this hour, he's saying this wisdom you're going to write. Okay? He's talking about wisdom. Let's get another one. I know it's kind of confusing, but we're going to give you more. You're going to see it. We're going to go to Luke chapter 12, and we're going to start at verse 11. And it reads, and when they bring you unto the synagogues and unto the magistrates and powers, take ye no thought how or what thing ye shall answer, or what ye shall say. It says, for the Holy Ghost, that's the spiritual law, shall teach you the same hour. It's saying it's going to give you the same understanding that they're teaching in that synagogue, but it's going to be spiritual. That's what he's saying. He's saying for the Holy Ghost, the spiritual interpretation of what they're saying shall teach you in the same hour, the same wisdom that they're getting, what ye ought to say. So he's telling you, the Holy Ghost is going to tell you what the interpretation of what they're teaching carnally means. That's what he's saying. For the Holy Ghost shall teach you, the spiritual interpretation is going to teach you, in the same hour, in the same wisdom, same words that they're speaking, what ye ought to say. So that's how you're going to correct them. You're going to look and see what they're saying. You're going to know what the words mean spiritually, and you're going to correct them with spiritual understanding. All right? I know it's difficult, but we're going to press on. You're going to get it. We're going to go to John chapter 2. Everybody knows the story about whenever Christ turned water into wine. Well, it's not really talking about a man making wine. And Elder Samuel, he's going to do a video on it. He's going to explain this whole thing. All right? We're going to go to John chapter 2. I'm going to focus on that 4th verse because that's where what we need is. So I'm not going to go into the explanation of it, but I'm going to show you what he's talking about when he's talking about these hours. All right? John chapter 2 verse 1. And the 3rd day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. All right, y'all know what the mother is. The mother is a doctrine. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. Elder Samuel, you're going to explain that to y'all in that video he does. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, they have no wine. And y'all know what wine is. Okay? It's talking about doctrines. All right? Now, Jesus says unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servant, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. He says, Woman, what have I to do with thee? The woman is his doctrine. His mother is his doctrine. What have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. He's saying he's not confident in his understanding of the doctrine. It's telling you, when he's making wine, he's getting ready to start teaching his doctrine. Okay? When the Bible's talking about treading the wine press, it's talking about preaching. Okay? That's making the wine. The wine is the doctrine. That's the word. Okay? A prophet treads the wine press. That means he's a preacher. Okay? Whenever it came time for Christ to start preaching, he was not confident in the doctrine yet. But the Most High is pressing him to start teaching. Okay? Jesus said unto her, Woman, that's his doctrine. What have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. He's saying, I'm not ready to start teaching you. His mother saith to the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. So, but when he started preaching it, them servants that he gathered, they started believing what he was saying. So even though he wasn't confident in the doctrine, he was teaching it anyway, and the people understood what he was saying. That built his confidence. That's what that's talking about. Okay? We're going to get another one. We're going to go to John 4, verse 21. This is him talking to that woman. This is the woman at the well. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh, when ye shall neither in this mountain is a congregation, nor yet at Jerusalem is a doctrine, worship the Father. Okay? Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Okay? So the true Jews are the people that understand the spiritual doctrine. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. Okay? So he's saying the hour, the understanding's gonna come, and now is, which is, remember, we said this Bible is an end times book. It's telling you what's going on now, okay? The hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. It's comparing that hour to spirit and truth. Spirit and truth is the spiritual law, okay? The spirit of truth is the spiritual law. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. God is a spirit. Spirit, that means he's the word. Spirit means word. Spirit means word, okay? God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So the hour that's coming, the understanding's gonna come. And now is. So we got the understanding now. When the true worshipers, that's the people who kill the old man, they're going to believe the spiritual doctrine, shall worship the Father. The Father is the Most High. In spirit and in truth, they're going to understand the spiritual law, right? Because you know truth means the law, okay? Psalms 119, 142, okay? For the Father seeketh such to worship him. All right. When the Bible is talking about hour, it's talking about wisdom, understanding. Wisdom, understanding. Let's get another one. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 17 and verse 14. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed. For oftentimes he falleth into the fire and oft into the water. So he's telling him that his son got a doctrine. All right, he calling his son crazy. It's just like these young men you see out there on the street with this stupid doctrine, and they vexed with this doctrine, okay? For oftentimes he falleth into the fire, that word that he learned, and often into the water, that word that he learned, all right? These people don't know what they doing. He's telling you about what's happening now with these kids on these corners screaming at everybody. He said, I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. The disciples, a lot of y'all don't know who y'all are, all right? And y'all waking up. So y'all don't understand how to do it yet. But we're in the process of teaching everybody how to discern, how to weigh the fire. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. Then it says, and Jesus rebuked the devil. The devil is the deceiver. That's the doctrine that this boy got. All right. He rebuked the devil, that doctrine. That means he corrected that doctrine. And he departed out of him. That means he didn't believe that doctrine no more. And the child was cured from that very hour. He was cured from the word, the wisdom that Christ gave him. The hour that he gave him was the understanding. Okay? When it's talking about hours, it's talking about wisdom. Jesus gave him the wisdom to cure him of that foolish doctrine he was following. And we hope we're curing some of those young men over there in those carnal Israelite camps by giving them what these spiritual words mean. We're going to go to Luke chapter 7, verse 19. And John, he's talking about John the Baptist, and John, calling unto him 2 of his disciples, sent them to Jesus. So John the Baptist is sending his disciples to Jesus, all right, saying, Art thou he that should come, or look we for another? So they were concerned if Jesus was the actual Messiah. When the men were come unto him, they said, John the Baptist hath sent us unto thee, saying, Art thou he that should come, or look we for another? And in that same hour he cured many of their infirmities and plagues and evil spirits, and unto many that were blind he gave sight. And Jesus answering said unto them, Go your way and tell John what things ye have seen and heard, how that the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, to the poor the gospel is preached. So he's telling them, whenever it goes back, we go back up to verse 21. In that same hour, the wisdom that he gave them, he cured many with infirmities. He cured them with the hour, the wisdom that he gave them. In that same hour, he cured many of their infirmities. Their infirmities is their non-belief, okay? Those doctrines that they are following, that they believe, because they don't understand the spiritual doctrine. He corrected their doctrines. And plagues are problems in your doctrine. The Most High deal only in doctrines. He ain't dealing with carnal plagues and all of that. Yeah, that stuff's gonna happen. We get that. But that has no bearing on your salvation. The plagues of your doctrine, if your doctrine is not correct and healed or cured as Christ is doing, you can't get the kingdom. That's what he's telling you. And evil spirits, evil words, the doctrine, evil doctrines, okay? And unto many that were blind, he gave sight. He gave sight or understanding of the doctrine, the hour, okay, that were blind to it, that didn't understand it. Then Jesus answering said unto them, Go your way. Way is your path, your doctrine that you follow, okay? And tell John what things you have seen and heard. Tell him the doctrine that I just taught you. How that the blind see, he went and gave them understanding. The lame walk, they walk the path of the new doctrine. The lepers are cleansed. Lepers have a plague of the skin. A skin is a doctrine, okay? Watch the precepts down below. The deaf hear. So when you start talking about all of the senses, it's talking about all of that stuff is of the member of the mind, okay? So it's talking about the heart. When it says the heart's the mind, the ear's the mind, the eyes the mind, it's talking about understanding, okay? The deaf hear, the dead are raised. The people who following another doctrine are raised up in the new doctrine. They're born again, okay? It's not talking about him actually bringing people who are dead back to life. It's talking about him converting people to the new doctrine. The poor, the gospel is preached. So all of that's saying the same thing. He's preaching the gospel to the people who don't have understanding, okay? So now you should by now have a pretty decent understanding of what I was talking about. So now let's go and discuss what days mean. Days mean level of understanding. So now we're going to go to Job chapter 12 and verse 12. With the ancient is wisdom. Okay, so it's talking about wisdom. So the next thing it's going to compare it to is talking about wisdom. And in length of days is understanding. So he's telling you days is wisdom and understanding. Okay, y'all see that? We're going to stay in the same book. We're going to Job 32, verse 7. I said, days should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. So it's telling you days and years mean the same thing. But there is a spirit in man, that's the word, a doctrine. And the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding. That's his doctrine. Great men are not always wise, neither do age understand judgment. Okay, so he's saying you got to have the understanding of the Most High in order to be wise. Okay, even if you're an older person, if you don't have the understanding of the Almighty, you don't have understanding. Okay, you don't have the proper understanding. So it's telling you days is understanding. Okay, let me read it again. I said days should speak, understanding should speak, wisdom should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. So he's telling you years is wisdom. All right, so when the Most High is talking about days and years, he's talking about wisdom. We're going to go to Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, so you can see. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 33, and we're going to start at verse 7. He's talking about days. Why doth one day excel another? So he's talking about one man's wisdom excelling another man's wisdom. When as all the light is wisdom of every day, the wisdom in a man in the year is of the sun. The sun is wisdom. By the knowledge of the Lord, it's talking about knowledge, they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. Seasons and feasts is talking about wisdom. When you see seasons and feasts, is talking about wisdom. Some of them hath he made high days. Some prophets got more understanding than others, and hallowed them. And some of them hath he made ordinary days. So some people just have basic understanding. All the men are from the ground. That's carnal. You start off carnal. And Adam was created of earth. In much knowledge the Lord has divided them. So he divided the men according to their knowledge. So that's why some men understand more than other men, because they have different understandings, and made their ways diverse. So he's telling you the doctrines are different between some people. Okay, some people have a spiritual doctrine, some people have a carnal doctrine. Okay, some of them has he blessed and exalted, which he said that the spiritual doctrine was the doctrine that you had to follow. And some of them hath he sanctified, right? Sanctified means cleansed with water, okay? They got the understanding. And set near himself. We just read, he's a spirit, and you must worship him in spirit and truth. But some of them hath he cursed and brought low and turned out of their places. So he's telling you, some of those people who following the wrong doctrine, he's cursed. Then it says, as the clay is in the potter's hand, he's the potter, okay, to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him. Every man is in the hand of the Most High. The goings of the king is of the Most High. All right, the Most High determines who gets the understanding and who don't, to render to them as like as him best. The Most High decides who he's going to give the wisdom to. But as you see, the way that he's using days, season, feast, all of that stuff is talking about wisdom. It's talking about wisdom. Okay? Now, you've got a pretty good understanding of what days and hours and all that means. We're going to talk a little bit about weeks. Now watch how the Most High talks. And when you see it, you're going to be able to understand what he means. So now we're getting ready to use our understanding of what those words mean in order to decipher how the Most High talks. Okay? We're going to Genesis 29 and verse 26. This is talking about when Jacob worked 7 years in order to get Laban's daughter, Rachel. Okay? And whenever he went into the wedding chamber, he woke up the next day and found out he had given him Leah instead of Rachel. Now, if anybody ever been married before, you know good and well you ain't gonna marry no woman and you ain't gonna be able to see the woman. You ain't laying down with no woman that you can't see. So they got you believing this Jewish fable that he actually gave him a wife that he didn't see before he laid down with her. But that's not what the Most High is talking about. Remember, a woman is a doctrine. A woman is a doctrine. You're going to come to understand that all our forefathers were preachers, prophets, teachers. Leah is a doctrine that Jacob studied under Laban to learn. He wanted to learn that doctrine called Rachel because it was a very, very popular doctrine. But Laban played him and taught him Leah instead. Now watch how the Most High writes this. Genesis chapter 29, verse 26. And Laban said, it must not be done so in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. So he's saying, I got to give you the firstborn doctrine, my first doctrine, before I give you the newer doctrine. All right. Then he says, fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet another 7 years. Now he just said, fulfill her week. Learn this doctrine. He using the word week as wisdom. Y'all see that? Fulfill her week. Learn that doctrine, Leah, first. And we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. If you give me 7 more years, I'll teach you the doctrine of Rachel. Now y'all looking at this thing carnally, thinking he talking about, well, you know, he got to work 7 years to get the one woman, and then he got to work another 7 years to get the other woman. No, he ain't talking about carnal women. He talking about spiritual women. He's learning doctrines from his uncle. His father sent him out of the land of Canaan because he didn't want his son to learn the doctrines of Canaan. His son Esau learned them. He married those doctrines out there in Canaan. But he didn't want Jacob to learn them. So he sent him to his uncle. And his uncle taught him a righteous doctrine by the name of Leah. He had another doctrine by the name of Rachel that wasn't so righteous. All right? But look how he's using the word week. The word week means wisdom. Fulfill her week. Learn this doctrine first. A week is 7 days. All right? That's completion. Learn her week. And we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 more years. And I give you the other understanding if you stay and continue to learn under me. Get a complete understanding under me. That's what he's telling him. All right? That word weak means wisdom. Learn this doctrine first. That's what he's saying. All right? Let's try another one. We're going to Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. He's talking about somebody wicked gonna take over the church, right? And y'all seeing them right now. That's these wicked men who have taken control over the doctrine that Christ left. They're saying it's Christ's doctrine, but they're teaching the doctrine of Moses, okay? And the end thereof shall be with a flood. So he's saying a flood gonna come. And unto the end of the war of desolations, and unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. So it's going to be a war of doctrines between those carnal doctrines and Christ's doctrine. All right? And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. 1 week is 7 days. 3.5 is the carnal understanding. 3.5 is the spiritual understanding. He's not talking about Saturday, Sunday through Saturday. He's not talking about that. He's not talking about Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. He's not talking about that. That's a creation that man uses. The Most High is not talking about days. When he's talking about the 7th day, he's not talking about Saturday. He's not talking about Saturday when he's talking about the 7th day. I know y'all don't know that. He's talking about completion. That means complete understanding. That's the day of rest. Rest means belief. I know y'all go to the Sabbath and y'all think the Sabbath is talking about the 7th day, meaning Saturday. He's not talking about the 7th day, Saturday. He's talking about the day of completion when you believe. That's what the Sabbath is talking about. It's a day of rest, a day of understanding, a day that you believe. All right? Verse 27, and he shall confirm the covenant. The covenant is the doctrine. With many for 1 week. They're going to get the full understanding of Christ's doctrine. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. After you in the middle, there 3.5 days, times, parting of time. 3.5. He shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. He gonna cause you to stop believing in the carnal doctrine. That's what that's talking about. It's 3.5 days when the Most High recognizes that you have understanding of the carnal doctrine by signifying it as 3.5 days. And for the overspreading of abomination, he shall make it desolate. He's going to make that carnal doctrine desolate. People not going to believe it anymore. That's what's happening right now. This is a latter days book. Even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Okay, so them people not going to get the understanding. In 3.5 days, once the people get full understanding of that carnal doctrine, which they've been teaching that thing for 20 years, now most people know what it is. And now they're starting to convert from the carnal understanding to the new spiritual doctrine that we are teaching. We're going to go to Exodus chapter 34, verse 22. And it says, and thou shalt observe the feast of weeks. Weeks is understanding. The feast of understanding. Of the first fruits of wheat harvest. That means you bringing in that harvest of your doctrine. And the feast of ingathering at the year's end. Now you're going to learn that when the Most High talking about years, he's talking about a person's level of understanding. All right? We're going to get into a little while here about what happened, and you're going to see how the Most High lays out the levels of a person's understanding based upon the calendar that he wrote about. Y'all never looked at it like that, but you about to see it here very quickly. All right, we're going to give you finally that the month or the moon and month mean the same thing, okay? They're both talking about the same thing, all right? It's talking about wisdom, understanding, okay? Moon and month mean wisdom and understanding, okay? We're going to go to Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, or Sirach, chapter 43, and verse 6. He made the moon, understanding, also to serve in her season. We just said season mean understanding. For a declaration of times. We just read times was wisdom and understanding. A sign of the world. Okay? From the moon, understanding, is the sign of feast. Feast is understanding. When you eat means learn, okay? So feast talking about wisdom, learning. A light that decreaseth in her perfection. All right. The month is called after her name. When you see the word month, it means the same thing as moon. It means understanding, wisdom. Increasing wonderfully in her changing. Being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. So whenever your moon turns toward the Most High, you're going to increase in your understanding. All right? That's what it's talking about. So let's read it again so you get the full understanding. He made the moon to serve in her season, understanding, for the declaration of time, that's wisdom, and a sign of the world. So the world is the carnal understanding, right? For the moon is a sign of feast, understanding, light that decreases in her perfection. So he's talking about the world. That means he's talking about the carnal understanding. It's going to decrease, right? The month is called after her name, right? Increasing wonderfully in her changing. Once a person changes from the carnal to the spiritual, being an instrument of the armies above. Above is the spiritual. Below, beneath is the carnal. Shining in the firmament of heaven. Okay? So it increases whenever you start following the spiritual versus the carnal. Okay? That's what that's talking about. Now, the Most High lays out a learning process for the people by the feasts. The feast in the Bible explains the learning process. And we're not going to read the whole thing, but we're going to read you a few verses where you get the understanding that when the Most High is talking about the different feasts and months, he's talking about your level of understanding. All right. First, we're going to go to Exodus chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt. The land of Egypt is the doctrine of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. He's telling you, he's talking about Abib. The Most High is saying that Abib is talking about when a person leaves the land of Egypt. He recognizes that they are at the level or status of Abib in understanding. That's what he's saying. When a person makes the decision that they are offended by that carnal doctrine and start on their path to the new spiritual doctrine, They are at the status or level of understanding Abib. All right, that's what he's talking about. All right. Chapter 13, he literally says it. And Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which ye came out of Egypt, when you came out of the carnal understanding, out of the house of bondage, out of following those carnal doctrines from them churches that you were in. For by the strength of hand, the Lord brought thee out of this place. The strength of his hand, his doctrine. A hand is a doctrine. That's a member. A member is a doctrine. The place is his doctrine. All right. The place, from this place, the doctrine of Egypt, there shall no leavened bread be eaten. Leavened bread. So you got the Most High, he wants unleavened. Leavened bread is bread that's full of all kinds of doctrines, carnal doctrines. Unleavened bread is the doctrine that the Most High gives. He said he wants unleavened bread. Okay. Then verse 4. This day came ye out in the month wisdom Abib. Okay, he's telling you, when you come out of the carnal belief, you are at Abib. That's what he calls when you leave the carnal understanding. All right, we're going to go to Exodus chapter 16. Verse 1. So now we're showing you, as they were coming out of Egypt and such, certain things were happening along the way. The Most High is explaining stuff to you. If you look, you'll see he's laying out the levels people have to understand. Okay? We're going to go to Exodus chapter 16, verse 1. And they took their journey to Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after departing the land of Egypt. So he's telling you, he's calling all of these things out as benchmarks for when a person gets understanding. The whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, right? So he's telling you, this is the process of converting from carnal to spiritual. You're going to reach a point in time where you're going to start doing the spiritual understanding, and then you ain't going to necessarily like it, because you're accustomed to actually physically doing stuff to show the Most High that you love him. But he said he's not accepting that stuff. So you got to learn how to worship him. Somebody taught you that you had to physically go out there and put up a tent in order to do Feast of Tabernacle. But the Most High said the tent you setting up is your spiritual house. He want to dwell in that tent. You don't know that. He wants you to be the tabernacle. Y'all want to play camping games, but the Most High saying you need to turn yourself into that tent that he can dwell in by learning his doctrine. All right. Verse 3. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots. The flesh pots, flesh is understanding. In Egypt, the men made up all those crazy beliefs. Well, the UFOs, they gonna come. And then the chariots, the spaceships, they gonna come and they gonna redeem us all up. And then we gonna sit and watch the whole world burn. We're gonna watch the Most High destroy all those wicked nations that came up against Israel. And y'all sitting there and y'all just love it. Y'all just eating it up. Ooh, he knows so much. Did you hear how he brought that up? And the whole thing is a lie. But y'all love it. He said, When we sat by the flesh pots is them people telling you them lies with that doctrine. And when we did eat bread to the full, you was full of that doctrine that them people was giving you. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness, so now they got to learn something new. You got to learn something new. To kill the whole assembly with hunger. So they said, you sitting there saying, you ain't giving us enough. We need to know more. We need to know more. We need y'all to tap dance for us, to make us love the way that you talking. The Most High telling you what he got to tell you. That stuff that they're telling you is not going to get you salvation. The stuff we telling you that the Most High gave us is going to get you salvation. It might not be as exciting as all those pictures and all of those they go into those mysterious history books and they make up these doctrines and all of that. It sounds like a good story, but all of it's a lie. Verse 4, then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you. So he's saying after a while, you're going to start getting the understanding of these words and you're going to know what it means. And the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day. You're going to start learning when you start to read the Bible that he actually telling you something. And then you're going to get interested once you know what these words mean. That I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or not, or no. So you got to go and study and seek the Most High. If you don't take the time to go and study, learn what these words mean and get the full understanding of what he's saying, which is as interesting as anything I've ever heard. Okay? If you don't take the time to do that, right, then you won't get salvation. That's what that's talking about. But he's telling you, these are the processes along your learning. Okay? We're gonna go to Exodus chapter 19, verse 1. In the third month, this is another level of understanding. In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, that's whenever they started learning a little more, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. The wilderness of Sinai, it's stages. These are stages in your learning process. For they were departed from Rephidim. They learned the understanding of Rephidim. Okay, and were come to the desert of Sinai. Desert is they didn't understand this doctrine. Moses is teaching these people different doctrines along the way. That's what it's telling you. Just like whenever we teach classes, we're teaching you different understanding along the process, so that you get full belief in the Most High's doctrine, and you're gonna rest on the seventh day. The seventh day is when you have full understanding of the doctrine and you believe. All right. And were come to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness. They set up a church, and there Israel camped before the mount. All right. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain. So the Most High is giving him what to say, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel. Okay? So notice he keeps separating Israel from Jacob. Jacob and Israel are two nations. They gonna learn together, but he's gonna redeem Israel, but Jacob are not gonna believe. All right? That's what it's telling you. Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bear you on eagle's wing. Eagle's wings is the prophets, okay? And brought you unto myself. You come to the Most High by learning from the prophets, okay? The righteous prophets. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice, follow my doctrine indeed, and keep my covenant, that's the doctrine. Okay, the new doctrine. This is a latter days book. It's talking about what's happening now. Then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. for all the earth is mine. He's saying, if you convert to his doctrine, you're his. If you convert to his doctrine, you are his. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. Right? So he's saying the nation is a congregation. When you see nation, you see priests, kingdom, a kingdom of priests. Everybody who understands that doctrine has the ability to teach the doctrine. And holy nation, a whole nation of people, regardless of what your race. It ain't said nothing about you had to be an Israelite. It's talking about a holy nation. Anybody that believes he's a spirit. So you got to believe him in spirit and in truth. Anybody that believe that word, they Israel. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. Okay, so he's letting you know you got to learn the doctrine. All right, so it's giving, that's the next level along the way. He's telling you this is at month 3, your level of understanding of month 3. Okay, and it keeps going. Leviticus 16:29. And this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month, your 7th level of understanding, on the 10th day of the month, ye shall afflict your souls, and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourners among you. So by that time, you gonna understand you ain't got to do the work. The work is support your belief. All right. You gonna believe in the 7th month. That's what he's telling you. You're going to believe in the 7th month. So you're going to go through all of that stuff. And we just bounced around a little bit just to give you a level of understanding, to let you know as the people kept getting more and more learning, they started believing more and more. Now, most people went and saw the 10 Commandments, and they got this belief that the Most High was doing all of these miracles and all this stuff out there in the wilderness. But that's the interpretation of the people who made the movie. That's why the Most High tell you, don't mate his doctrine with any other doctrine. When you went and you saw that movie, you got a doctrine developed in your head to make you think this is what he was doing. But now you see the Most High thinks differently than the people that made that movie. You can't be distracted. You got to learn what the Most High is saying, and then you get a better understanding. All that stuff that they put on that movie is a bunch of Jewish fables. Okay? They can't prove none of that stuff. They can't prove none of it happened. All right? So you're going to take the time and you're going to learn what it actually means. Okay? That's what we're teaching you. So now let's talk about years a little bit. We're going to explain it, what years are talking about, because we got to get to the part about this man living 900 years. Okay? So we're going to go to Leviticus 17 and verse 13. We're going to start here because it's something that we got to give you a background on so we can get to years. Okay? Now it says, and whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust. Then it says, for it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat the blood. You shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. So now he's telling you, You can't drink blood because life is in the blood. Now you're going to learn that blood is a doctrine. All right. We're getting ready to give it to you now so you can understand. What I'm trying to get you to understand is what life talking about. All right. So he's saying there is you can't eat any flesh or blood. Okay. Now we're going to go to John chapter 6 and verse 53. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. So now he just said don't eat flesh and blood. But Christ saying he got a different flesh and blood. So you can eat his flesh and his blood, right? Whosoever eateth my flesh, meaning Christ's flesh, and drinketh my blood, his blood, hath eternal life. Is life in his flesh and blood. His flesh and blood is the wisdom, the doctrine. And I will raise him up in the last day. He's talking about the latter days. Again, it's a latter days book. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. Meat and drink is wisdom. Okay? He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. He's going to give you life. Okay? So he's talking about life. So he's telling you life is his doctrine. All right? We're going to Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. So life is the doctrine. Life is the doctrine. Okay. Moses said he set before them life and death. We're going to go to Romans chapter 8, verse 5. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. So he's making a difference between carnal, flesh, and spiritual. Okay? Both meaning understanding. Different types of wisdom. Flesh, carnal, and spirit. All right? For to be carnally minded, so you got a carnal interpretation, is death. He's saying if you have a carnal interpretation, you following death. Okay? When you see the word death, it's talking about carnal. Okay? But to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Okay? So meaning you gonna rest when you get life, which is the spiritual understanding. Life is spiritual. Okay? All right. We're going to John chapter 14, verse 6. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. There's that word life again. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So he's telling you, he's the life. He's the word. John 1 and 1. He's the word. The word. Okay? His word, his doctrine is life. His doctrine is life. Okay? So basically, when you see the word life, it means doctrine. It means wisdom. It means life. Okay? Life means wisdom and doctrine. Okay? When you see life, it means wisdom or doctrine. All right. So now we go to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And the Lord formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So it said, and the Lord formed man of the dust of the ground. That means Adam started off carnal. And he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Later on, the Most High gave him the spiritual doctrine. That's when Eve was formed. All right. And man became a living soul. He began to live whenever he got that doctrine. All right. Breath of life, breath, wind, air, all those things mean doctrine. He got the doctrine of life. Most High gave him the doctrine of Christ. That's what Adam was teaching. All right. And man became a living soul. Okay, so he started teaching. He started living. I think y'all starting to see it. He started living once he got the doctrine. All right. We're going to Revelation chapter 11, verse 1. We're going to read down to verse 6. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise, measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city shall they tread underfoot for 42 months. All right. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. So he said he gonna first give 42 months to the Gentiles. Then he gonna give his witnesses, his 2 witnesses, to prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Now, y'all know sackcloth is a doctrine. All right. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And if any will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. All right. So it's talking about fire proceeding out of his mouth. That means those 2 witnesses know how to preach. All right. Anybody that hurt him, he gonna convert him, meaning kill. Kill mean convert. Romans 6, 1-6. These have the power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues, as often as they will. These men are righteous. These are the people who able to make the carnal doctrine defiled by their doctrine. Once the people hear the doctrine of these righteous prophets, they're not going to want to hear the stupid doctrines and those carnal doctrines that these people made up, these foolish old wives' tales and Jewish fables anymore. That's what that's talking about. All right. So these men, he gave numbers to represent those men. All right. So when you look at those numbers, right, the months, 42 months is 3.5 years. That's half of 7. 120 days is 3.5 years. That's half of 7. The Most High uses days and years interchangeably. All right. So he's telling you, he's showing you there's levels of understanding. When he's talking about in this chapter, it talks about those men. They're going to prophesy for 3.5 years, and they're not going to be able to let their bodies be placed in graves. All right, so they going to be under a carnal doctrine. Then it says that he going to raise them up. He going to tell them, come up hither. He going to give them the doctrine of Jerusalem. And they're going to prophesy for another 3.5 years. Meaning that they're going to have full understanding. 3.5 years and 3.5 years make 7. Completion. All right? That's what that's talking about. Okay. So now we getting ready to give you a practical application of the concept of when the Most High is talking about giving people understanding. We're going to 2 Kings chapter 20, and we're going to start at verse 1. We're going to read down to verse 11. This is talking about Hezekiah. You've heard this, but you don't know that this is a parable. Okay? We're about to explain this parable to you because it's telling you how the Most High used days and years and all that other stuff. He's talking about wisdom. All right? In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death. Y'all know what death is. Death is the carnal understanding. So it's saying Hezekiah, he almost about to convert. Y'all see that? And the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos, came to him and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. So he's telling him, you getting ready to convert. Y'all think it's talking about Hezekiah actually killing over dead. That's not what it's talking about. Then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto the Lord. The wall is the doctrine. All right. When we're talking about that wall, it's talking about the doctrine. Prayed unto the Lord, saying, I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. Wept mean pray. It don't mean he's crying. It means he's praying. Look at the precepts. And it came to pass, afore Isaiah was gone out into the middle of the court, that the word of the Lord came to him, saying, Turn again and tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, meaning he the king, Thus saith the Lord, the God of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer. So he just told you, wept means pray. Okay? I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. Remember when we was talking about curing and all of that? Christ cures with the doctrine. I will heal thee. On the 3rd day thou shalt go up unto the house of the Lord. So he's, again, is saying it a different way than the 3.5 and 3.5. Remember we said on the 7th day you rest. All right. It's worded differently, but it's saying kind of the same thing. He's gotten 3 years of the carnal. So he said the 3rd day, 3 days of the carnal. And now he's getting ready to get his other 3 days. After he get those 3, he gonna reach the 7th day where he believes. All right. All right. He says, and on the 3rd day thou shalt go up unto the house of the Lord, and I will add unto thee 15, and I will add unto thy days 15 years. Okay, so now the Most High uses years and days interchangeably, right? I don't personally know what level that Hezekiah is at. All I know is the Most High says he's going to increase his understanding. That's a determination of the Most High. Remember, he says some days are holy days. Some days are high days. He hallows some days. Okay, so some people get more understanding than other people. All right, and I will deliver thee and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria. So y'all ain't gonna be following no carnal doctrine no more. The king of Assyria, there's a person today that fits the description of the king of Assyria. The king of Assyria had a different doctrine. There are people today that fit the characteristics of the king of Assyria. We often talk about one in particular. And I will defend this city of mine for mine own sake and for my servant David's sake. All right. And Isaiah said, take a lump of figs. Figs, it ain't telling you that this man made some kind of salve with some figs and put on a wound on Hezekiah. If you believe that, you believe in a Jewish fable. Figs is understanding. It's food. It's food. All right. Isaiah said, take a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. Okay, a boil on the skin. Skin is doctrine. Look at those precepts down there. And I know y'all always hear about, they said that Esau had a red and hairy garment, right? His skin was red and hairy. His skin is a garment. That's what it's calling his skin in Genesis 25:25. So skin is a garment. Job 29:14 tells you that a garment is a doctrine. All right. So it's saying that Hezekiah's doctrine was plagued, meaning he didn't have the right doctrine. And Isaiah is giving him the right doctrine. All right. He laid it on the boil and he recovered. That means he converted. Hezekiah converted to the right doctrine. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord hath healed me? All right. And he said, and that I shall go up into the house of the Lord the third day. And Isaiah said, this sign shalt thou have of the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he hath spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees, or go back 10 degrees? And Hezekiah answered, it is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. Nay, let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. And Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz. So all he's telling you is, now when you understand what the shadow is, right? He's telling you the shadow gonna go backward. Shadow means ignorance, right? He removed the ignorance of Hezekiah. Shadow, dark, night, all those words mean the same. It means ignorance. Okay? Hezekiah's ignorance went backward. That means he got light. That means he gave Hezekiah understanding. When the Most High is talking about days and years, he's giving you understanding. He gave Hezekiah 15 years. Okay? He gave Hezekiah understanding of his doctrine. That's all that's saying. Y'all think the Most High made the sun go backward, back in the sky. That's not what it's talking about. The sun is wisdom. Okay? He said that he was going to take that dial backward, that shadow. So he gave him light. He gave him understanding. That's what that parable talking about. It ain't talking about Hezekiah was about sick unto death, like he was about to fall over dead. The Most High gave him 15 years of understanding. That's what it's talking about. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 5. We're about to get some understanding. Genesis chapter 5, verse 3. Now listen real closely, because y'all know now that thing means something when it's talking about years. All All right. He gave Hezekiah 15 years. He gave him more understanding. All right. We showed you where he took the shadow backward, meaning he took away his ignorance. All right. Genesis chapter 5, verse 3. And Adam lived, that means he had the doctrine, right? And 130 years. He had 130 years of understanding and begat a son. So he made a new doctrine of his own likeness after his image, all right, and called his name Seth. So he created a doctrine named Seth. And the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, was 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So it's telling you, he increased his understanding to the level that the Most High recognizes as 800 more years. All right? And he begat sons and daughters. He made a lot of different doctrines. Okay? And all the days that Adam lived, the time that the understanding that he had, remember, life is the doctrine. All the days, understanding that Adam lived, the doctrine that he had, right, were 930 years, and he died. He physically died after he reached the level of understanding of 930 years, according to the Most High's benchmark of how smart a man is in his doctrine. And Seth lived 105 years and begat Enos. That's the doctrine. Enos is his son. His son is his doctrine that he created. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years and begat sons and daughters. Sons and daughters, that's his doctrines. He's a preacher. He's coming up with doctrines. And all the days of Seth was 912 years, and he died. He had the level of 912 years when he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan. He got a new doctrine called Canaan. Elder Yohanan gonna explain Canaan very soon. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. He created other doctrines. And all the days of Enos was 905 years, and he died. Okay, so all that's telling you, that man had the level of understanding in the doctrines that he had of 905 years. It's not talking about he physically lived that long. It's telling you that's the level of understanding based on your new understanding of what days, weeks, years, and all that means. All right? So now, we're going to Genesis 7 and 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, his life is his doctrine. To understand, we told you, life is the doctrine. All right, Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. So it's telling you, the 600th year of Noah's life, his understanding, he was at the level of 600 years. He had great understanding. In the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day, were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were open. He was getting understanding, the windows of heaven. All right? Though that's understanding. Okay? So it's letting you know. He reigned, and the rain was upon earth 40 days and 40 nights. The Most High giving him more understanding. All right? So it's telling you, Noah was at the 600th year of understanding whenever that rain started coming on him from the Most High. And he rained on him 40 days and 40 nights. He gave him the equivalent in understanding. Just like whenever the children of Israel came out of Egypt, they were at the level of Abib. All right? Noah had 600 years, the equivalent of understanding of the Most High's doctrine. That's what it's telling you. All right. Y'all see that? All right. The Most High has a different way of thinking than all of us. Being that we can't understand how he thinks, we develop these old wives' tales and Jewish fables to explain away things that are foolish to believe. The only way you know our doctrine is of the Most High is what we are explaining that has long since been forgotten. A lot of people lost the ability to explain the Bible. But the Most High has brought the understanding back. That's why we able to explain it to you, right? Y'all probably never heard what we bringing out. We sat, we discussed it, we brought the precepts, and we know what we saying is sure. We only know what it means because we use the doctrine Christ taught us. We gave you the precepts to show you what those times mean. This is our final scripture before we end. All right? So you can get this understanding from us, why we know what we know. And so you know who we are. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1. Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not. Mercy is the spiritual law. That's why we know what we talking about. We confident in what we saying. But have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty. We ain't trying to follow them carnal doctrines that they say so deep. Not walking in the craftiness, nor handling the word of God deceitfully, like a lot of these carnal preachers doing right now. But by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. So we telling the truth. And the truth we telling is deciphering what those carnal old wives' tales and Jewish fables mean. We explain the parables to you, right? But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. If y'all want to continue to follow them Jewish fables and old wives' tale and flat out lies that you're learning in those carnal camps, that's on you. All right? In whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not. So them people don't believe because they believe that man, and they don't believe what the gospel that Christ gave is saying. Lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, he's the word of God. Okay? Just like Adam was in the image of God. Christ in the image of God. That means that's the word. Okay? Adam was teaching God's word. Okay? Who is the image of God should shine unto them. Okay? You get the understanding. If you reject those people and start following Christ. For we preach not of ourselves. Before I learned this understanding, I believed that man lived 900 and something years. I believed all the men lived 900 and something years. Because they told me if you ain't have faith, you didn't believe in God. I believed that stuff. But I don't believe it now because I got the real understanding. For we preach not ourselves, but Jesus Christ the Lord, and ourselves your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness. Light is shining out of darkness now. The light is Christ's word. That's the Most High's doctrine. The light, understanding, wisdom is shining out of darkness. In ignorance. We've been in darkness for thousands of years. People have not understood what this stuff was meaning. And now the Most High brought the doctrine back because he's about to end it all. This the latter days. For God, who commanded light to shine out of darkness, have shined in our hearts, our mind, to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the faith. Faith means doctrine of Jesus Christ. We have the doctrine of Jesus Christ. He's given it to us. It shines in our hearts, in our minds. We have the doctrine. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels. You looking at us, we just men, okay? We're men. We're not some spiritual deities. We're men. But we have the doctrine. We have this treasure in earthen vessels. All of us are men. That the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us. Y'all don't need to worship us. Y'all need to worship God. Don't go and start thinking, well, they know so much. Well, they must be gods on earth. No, we just men. And when this thing over with, we gonna die just like everybody else. All right, so don't worship us. Worship God. God is in the words that we're speaking, but we're not competing with him. We just vessels to give it to you. Don't give us your money and start saying, well, I need to make him rich. You know, he a man of God. So a man of God got to drive a nice car. We ought to come together to get him a nice car. Well, you know, he just sitting up in there in that green shirt. That man ought to have on an expensive suit. So he looked like a man of God. Most I ain't told you to do that. He said he ain't going to have no God before him. And he jealous. So if you got some money, do God's will with that money. Don't give it to no prophet. The Most High gonna provide for that prophet. Okay? Don't worry about that money. He don't want us competing with him. He wants you to get his word. After he done using us, you gonna have the word and you can do with it according to his will on your own. All right? So, learn this doctrine so you'll be able to understand what the Most High is saying. The prophet must be knowledgeable of Christ's doctrine. So, it's important that you focus on learning the doctrine. You know now that there ain't a man that ever lived on the earth 900 years. It's impossible. All right? Don't start thinking that, oh, you know, I'm wicked if I don't believe the lie that somebody lived 700, 800, 900 years. Okay? That's not what the Most High is talking about. You got full understanding now. You on your way. A lot of y'all just made it to the level of a babe. You just started believing in the spiritual doctrine and you having less belief in that carnal doctrine. You at a babe. You've rejected it. You got to keep moving forward. Increase your days. Increase your weeks. Increase your months and your years. Your season. Your feasts. You need to increase your wisdom and your understanding of the Most High. That's what you need to be focusing on. Okay? The time is short. It's easy to see what's happening. Those carnal predictions and prophecies, they're going to come to pass because the Most High said he's going to end the earth. It repented him that he made man. Y'all think that's talking about something that happened in the past. It's talking about now because the wickedness of man is always evil. So he's going to end man. He's going to kill everything. You're going to change in the twinkling of an eye. It's going to happen quick. You're going to change both your spiritual understanding and your physical life. That's going to change quick. You don't have a lot of time to learn. You got to purge all of those carnal, wicked beliefs and learn what Christ told us to do. All right? And finally, I have a shout out to this guy, this young man that used to be a captain over there in Orlando. He repaired my apocrypha back in the day. You need to reach out, young man. We have a lot of stuff to speak to you about. And with that, I bid you shalom.